I'm like, yes, make it be depressing. That's what I want. So this.
Welcome to the Dive Bar Music Club podcast, where the guest hosts drop in and out, but the opinions are always passionate and the playlists loud. It's like Cheers if everyone at the bar had a strong take on 90s alt-rock or a suspicious number of burned CDs. Around our table, you'll find an emerging touring songwriter, a former cult band favorite whose work since then is even more interesting, a portrait photographer with a not-so-secret metal penchant, a record store owner who learned about Swifties the hard way, a retired folk singer who regrets nothing, and a zine maker with more cool music projects than we can count. We're all just here to share what we're currently obsessed with and maybe convince someone that yes, that weird Icelandic synth folk band is worth a listen. Okay, that last one's probably me, Sloane Spencer. It's Dive Bar Music Club. Low-key, high taste, happy hour for music nerds. Welcome back to Dive Bar Music Club. I'm your host, Sloane Spencer, joined by a couple of my friends for our low-key, high-taste music chat this evening. Got Chad Cochran with us again and Amanda Miles, but the three of us have never hung out before. So a little fun, kind of getting to know each other, and y'all can get to know us as well. We have a great, unexpectedly thematic music list to talk about this evening as well. As I was going through and sequencing our playlist this time, I was like, we have a theme. I love a theme, especially because I don't assign homework. I'm just like, hey, what are y'all listening to these days? But because it's been a while since we've had a chance to chat, both Chad and Amanda, what have y'all been up to since we last talked?
I would say that I've been fortunate that I have been off the road for a little bit. So I've been home, which has been fantastic. It has given me some time to start to schedule my summer. As many people know, I'm a live music and concert photographer, and I do a lot of backstage portrait stuff at music festivals also during the summer. So I have a couple of those that I've been able to get solidified for the year, and looking forward to that.
Ooh, yeah, I'm going to ask you about that at the end. Don't let me forget, because I absolutely want to hear all about it. We're all about leaking information before it's officially in other places. Amanda, what have you been up to lately?
So I've just been working away. I work at a nonprofit, and this is we're like gearing up for our busy time of year right now as we head into summertime. And really like listening to a ton of music, doing a lot of writing right now, and preparing for some summer trips. Actually, some summer trips around some certain concerts. So it's a busy time, but it's also a really exciting time.
Yay, that's super fun. I feel like I haven't been doing anything, but I've been super, super busy, but it's because I'm kind of gearing up for my spring, summer, which have a whole lot of music-related stuff going on. And by the time this comes out, I will be on location for my favorite music festival for several days. So lots to talk about and excited to share all that sort of stuff. So as I was going through the music that y'all submitted this time, I was kind of like, oh, we got a couple of different music genres going on here. I'm not sure how we're going to connect all of this. And then I started listening more carefully to the lyrics. And y'all may know that I'm not really a lyric person. I'm more of a vibe person. But there is a very clear lyrical theme as we go through, kind of an arc as we go through these songs. So I want to start with you, Amanda, because you've brought some new music from someone that I have like a longtime background connection to, and I would love to have you share some of the songs that you chose this time around.
Oh my gosh. Well, I can't wait to hear about your background. So I brought a couple of songs. It's funny because I was actually looking over them too, thinking that there definitely felt like there was a theme. First is, of course, as you know, if you're a listener, you know that I am a diehard Jason Isbell fan. So Jason debuted a single with Willow Avalon called Cardinal Sin, and it is just like sonically, I can't stop listening to it. It's just it's something about the sound and the tenor of Willow's voice just pulls me in. And the other songs that I brought, Luke Combs with Alison Krauss, Ever Mine. And deeply, and it's very funny because Willow's voice actually reminded me of Allison.
Oh, I can hear that connection.
It's that angelic tone and a little bit of that vibrato. But just hearing the voices of Luke and Allison together, same sort of thing, just really like soothing and beautiful. But I really love the lyrics of the song too. And then the third song is a throwback. This one is Ella Langley covering Toby Keith's Wish I Didn't Know Now.
So I have so many questions about these songs for you.
Yes.
So knowing what I know about you and knowing that you're a Jason Isbell super fan, I love that you found this duet with Willow Avalon. Were you previously familiar with her?
No. So this was my debut to Willow's work, and I've now been going backwards and listening to her first record from 2024, her EP, and then digging into the Southern Belle Raising Hell from 2025. This has opened the door to her music for me.
Okay, so I don't want to sound like the expert on Willow Avalon because I'm not. However, so she's from Athens, Georgia.
Oh my gosh, Sloane, I didn't know that.
And it gets better because her dad is Jim White, the Searching for the Wrong-Eyed Jesus guy, and Transcendental Skipperdo, something like that. He's an amazing songwriter and author and storyteller. And he's more on the like storytelling folk end. And he was on David Byrne's record label Luaka Bop for a long time. And he is a fascinating character. And so back when she was still in like middle school, high school, he would occasionally post little videos saying, here's my eldest daughter. She's a really good singer. And I was like, holy cow, this little kid is a really good singer. He's not kidding. He's not just proud dad. And she literally like invented herself. And she has sounded the way she sounds since she was like a little kid.
That's incredible. I did not know that was her father, but it does make sense now because I'm thinking about her like lyrical prowess at I was even thinking like that she's at such a young age now, but knowing that she's been doing this for all these years, it makes sense.
She has totally like invented herself musically and has had one of those people who's like marched to the beat of her own drum from day one.
Fascinated.
And she has quite a, I'm fascinated by her because I was always like that person who was like creatively questioning and lots of like imposter syndrome and never confident in being different for decades. And to see someone from afar who knows that they are a creative and are going to like literally forge their own way from an early stage is just fascinating to me.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm hoping that this will be her breakout single then, because it does feel like, myself included, there's many more eyes on her with this debut, with this duet with Jason.
Yeah, and she's co-wrote it with, so I worked in country music for a really long time in the commercial radio end of it. And so her co-writer on this is Topher Brown, who is kind of, when you look him up, he's like co-writer for hundreds of other stuff. So just that connection is in between that and then Jason being the duet partner on this she is doing incredibly well. And she's literally one of the rare stories of someone who had the skills and made it happen. You know what I mean?
Gosh, now I must go back and read more about her father and the Athens connection.
I love him. I don't know how I initially found him other than some of his writing and just found the music. I found his writing before I found the music. So anyway, fascinating stuff. And especially because lyrically, this song, Cardinal Sin, pretty straightforward of what's going on. But I would love to sort of guide it through your other choices as well. You were talking about Luke Combs, a guy that, so I'll admit, I don't really like popular country music. I know that that's not a major revelation, but I don't. I worked in it for too long to like it, if that makes sense. But
I get it. Yes.
I'm not a Luke Combs hater. I think he is coming from everything from a very genuine standpoint, and he's done some good things to amplify women songwriters. And I think that's pretty incredible because you don't see that a lot from white dudes in popular country music. And this one with Alison Krauss is a really nice collab as well.
Yes. So I will say I definitely understand exactly where you're coming from especially with the popular music. And we also know just about how the country music industry is and how these certain artists get elevated. And then it's like there's a million artists, basically like Music Row puts out a bunch of like copycats. So, but with Luke, so I may have shared a little bit about this when I submitted this song, but I have really been impressed with him of late, as he's been doing some podcasts and some media, like promoting his newest album that this song is featured on with Alison Krauss. And what really spoke to me is how he has been sharing his battle with OCD and sharing that he'd done therapy and also tried medications for OCD. And it just really, especially it feels like so many times in the country music industry where things still feel either ultra progressive or ultra conservative, and there's not a middle ground. I feel like when you talk about a mental illness and getting therapy and treatment for it, it just seems like it's really been something, especially not a lot of male artists have talked about. So I really appreciated him being vulnerable and talking about, it's still something he deals with, to this day, and that he was encouraging like listeners, if they struggle with it, to reach out for support. And which also I laugh at myself because I'm like, oh, the bar is in hell. Then I'm like, and then I'm so impressed that he's like, please get treatment. But I also, and this is, I was telling my husband this the other day too. I was listening to him on a podcast, and he had shared that he was like riding around in a 4-wheeler on his property with his son, and they were listening to Southeastern, and I was like, which was Jason's album that I would say is like his foremost, like, if you're a fan of Jason Isbell, then Southeastern is usually like the album everybody talks about. So it actually made me stop and take a second look at him and go, oh, maybe I should listen to his new album. And that's when I heard the song here with Alison Krauss. And I love Alison Krauss, and she was, there was a lot of feature of her, especially like in the early 2000s in country music. And then it hasn't been as much of late. But when I think about a lifetime talent, when I think about somebody that has such a unique voice and unique presence, I think of Alison Krauss. And I've loved this song because it gives me like almost like a nostalgic feeling, a nostalgic thread. And there's like a yearning in it, which I love. I love a ballad. I love if you're a Jason Isbell fan, then that usually means you like sad stuff, which I love. I'm like, yes, make it be depressing. That's what I want. So this song is what definitely gave me that like yearning feeling. I loved hearing their voices together. Luke has such a very powerful voice, and then hearing the softness and the beauty in hers together was just so I was very impressed. And it actually, like I said, it made me take a second look at Luke, and made me take a deeper look into like who he is as an artist, and really enjoyed the single.
Amanda, I'm really glad that you put this on, because similar to what you just said, like, I knew Luke Combs existed. Like, I knew he was a person, but I didn't really know anything about his music. I probably, in alignment with Sloane, not really a popular country music fan. And watching him do all of the press, he has told some incredibly interesting stories. Seems like an incredibly authentic person. And I was kind of excited that you put the song on there, because I'm like, okay, I don't have any choice now. Now I have to go and listen to Luke Combs. and he's really good. Like, he's got a really good voice. He just seems like a super humble person. On one of the podcasts that he did, I'm a pretty active TikTok user, so I pick up like little clips, and it was really interesting. It was like one of the first nights he was going to play Madison Square Gardens. And he went in and he was going to buy himself like a fancy watch. Like, that was going to be his gift to himself, so he could wear this fancy watch while he played. And the people didn't know who he was. And he just looks like a normal guy, right? Like, he's kind of just looks like just a really normal dude. And went in there, they basically said that they didn't have any watches available. Like, they kind of like just blew him off. And I think the end of the conversation ended up being like, why did you want this watch? And he's like, oh, I'm playing Madison Square Garden tonight, and I wanted to wear it. And then suddenly they were like, we might have one around. Like, it was almost like TV show level, like, snootiness. So I'm glad you put it on there. It was good for me to finally not have an excuse. I needed a reason to listen to Luke Combs, and that gave me one.
Oh my gosh, I love it. And I love that story. I love that story. It's very like Julia Roberts in Pretty Woman. She's like, big mistake.
Yes.
Big mistake. That is something that I really connected to listening to him talk on the podcast lately. It's this exact same thing. It's just he's humble. I can tell that he really loves the music and he's grateful to be able to be an artist. I connected to some of his stories when he shared that he had, just started singing when he was going to college at Appalachian State. And I've been to that campus before, and it's beautiful, but it's really small, and it does make you think about how somebody, it's nice when somebody like that who is just comes from a small town, attended a small college, and believed in himself, and has made it big. And now he's playing Madison Square Garden.
Kind of wild. And your other song from Ella Langley, when I first saw it, so I know her name, but I know the song because that was as I said, I worked in pop country music for more than 20 years. So.
Oh, yes.
The original of that was a daily song for us. So how did you, because that one's been out for a while. How did you find her?
Yes. Okay. So I will say Ella is probably one of the few modern country, popular country artists that I do listen to. It was introduced to me over the past year through TikTok. It was very, very heavily featured to me. Several of her songs, and I really like her rasp, and she looks like a young Linda Ronstadt. She's very beautiful, but I really like the rasp in her voice, and she's very funny when I've seen her featured in some media pieces. But this song, of course, I know it, of course, as being a Toby Keith, early 90s. I'm very much a 90s country lover. I still will listen to Vince Gill and Garth Brooks and Alan Jackson. And then the women of that time I look up to so much, Martina and Winona and Reba, Faith Hill. So I have an affinity for these songs. But to be completely honest, I don't have an affinity very much for Toby Keith, because also, all of the politics. He had very strong political views during the Bush administration, and anti-chicks, anti-Natalie Maines. So, I will say, her version of this song did make me fall in love with the song, because she slowed it down, made it into a ballad, and just really broke it down to where it was stripped back.
Mm-hmm. She transformed this song. Yeah, it's completely different.
So hearing her version of it, it's just melodically so beautiful. And again, I feel like all of my songs just have this thread of some sort of nostalgia, some sort of yearning, and that's just what I've been tapping into this go round. And it felt like it fit in these cluster of songs that I submitted.
Yeah, it was nice because, like I said, I knew her name, but I freely admit I had never listened, and so I was like, oh, I have a funny relationship with cover songs. I don't know how y'all feel about cover songs just as a concept. Maybe some people don't care, but I love when a cover song becomes its own entity. And this is entirely different.
Yes, exactly. It's definitely its own thing, its own version. And I know so Ella does have a new album that just came out this week. So I'm hearing a lot of Butterfly. She has a new single with duetting with Miranda Lambert. It's very popular on TikTok and being fed that a lot. But this song is what I keep going back to, because I just love how it's been completely changed over to something different and something new and fresh. I love her perspective on this take on the cover.
I appreciate that you have your own distinct taste in music and bring these things that honestly I probably wouldn't find otherwise, and I'm grateful for that.
See, that's the great thing about this podcast, because I love hearing all sorts of different types of music because I'm very much in my bubble of country and Americana, and then I get to hear rock, and I get to hear rap, and I get to hear all sorts of different things that I maybe had not been tapped. I get to hear Swedish music. Yes.
Right. A lot, shockingly. Yeah, but it's easy to get. I think that the technology weirdly makes us more siloed rather than more broadly knowledgeable. And so that's where something like this podcast of people who have different silos being fed to us can share and hopefully help other people either branch out or find new things or just get something different in their algorithm once they start searching for one of these bands that is fresh for them. So I love that this happens. Chad, we've obviously known each other for a really long time, and you brought a couple of bands that I'm not surprised about, and then one that I will also admit to have not listened to yet. So tell me about the songs you chose this time around.
So I take like what we do here incredibly literally, probably to a fault. When you say like,
you've seen what I've submitted.
Yeah, like when you say like, what are you listening to recently? Almost always I will go to like my Apple Music and I will pick like the last 3 bands that I've listened to, and that's what I submit. That's
exactly what I do.
Right. And so like, you know, I have Paul McCartney, I have the Afghan Wigs, I have Arc Welder on here. This morning I was listening to Waylon Jennings. So it like, it truly just depends like what you're getting from me. But you know, similar to Amanda, I'm a pretty heavy TikTok user. And so I saw that Paul McCartney released a new record. And I use TikTok. I don't talk about photography. I only talk about music there. And I went and checked out the new Paul McCartney song. And I was like, oh, I don't know that Paul McCartney can put anything out that at this point that you don't immediately recognize as being Paul McCartney.
Right.
But it's a really soft song. Like, I realize he's 83 years old, but it was the first time I've heard one of the songs where I was like, oh, it sounds brittle and thin. And it was like, I like the song, but I think it was like the kind of the rawness of the song is what drew me to it. And it also was like a really good reminder that he's 83 years old. And he's, you know, and he's still out making music and still, you know, doing the thing. So I don't know. I just thought it was like, it was important to like bring that one up. It's weird to think that, you know, the Beatles, I think, broke up before I was born. but, you know, we still have, you know, Paul and Ringo out on a pretty regular basis out doing the thing. And I think that's pretty neat.
Yeah. And lyrically, the song is kind of a sweet, nostalgic song.
Yeah.
And that's the one that I admit I had not listened to it. I knew it was out and I hadn't listened. So I'm glad you brought it because I went and listened to that whole record.
Yeah. I think I'm still like blown away. And I just love all the stories. Like I wish that he would like, and maybe he has, and I haven't looked at it, but like, I wish he would just put out like a book of stories.
Yes.
Because there was the one that happened when I think it was like Paul McCartney and Dave Grohl and maybe, I don't know who else was involved, but they did like a rock song a few years ago, and it wasn't Them Crooked Vultures, but it was like just after that. And they like put out a rock song. And I remember the story was like the song came together in like an hour. And Dave Grohl looks at Paul and goes, wow, something like, I wish it were always that easy. And Paul goes, it is.
Oh.
And you're just like, oh yeah, that's Paul McCartney.
Yes.
You know, like anybody else that would probably sound like incredibly conceited, except it was Paul McCartney that said it, and it was just very matter of fact. Like, yeah, it is that easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's Paul, and then the Afghan Wigs also have started putting new music out again, which they are one of those bands, Cincinnati-based band that I think are living out in the desert now in California. I miss them when they first came out. I was like, it's interesting because I was like, it was the perfect moment.
Yeah.
But they didn't connect with me. Like I wasn't sure what like this white guy singing, like trying to sing sexy songs to me was about. Like it didn't like compute in my brain. I was probably at the mall buying flannel shirts at that point. So it didn't make a lot of sense to me what was happening. Although plenty of my friends were into them, it never clicked. And then probably like 15 years ago, I like dove back in and I'm like, oh, I love this band. And so I was really excited to hear that they were putting new music out. I saw that they just recently announced a new drummer. by the name of Brian Lee Brown. I'm not sure who he is, but Patrick Keeler, who plays in the Greenhorns and the Rockin' Tours, is out with Jack White. So obviously can't go on tour. So they have him in, and then they also added, and I don't know the gentleman's name, but they also added in one of the guitar players from Blind Melon is now playing in the Afghan Wigs. So it's pretty cool. And I really like the song. It's not drastically different than Paul McCartney. Like, there is no mistaking an Afghan Wig song. Like, you hear Greg start to sing and you're like, oh yes, this is the Afghan Wigs. So I thought it was fantastic. I'm really looking forward to hear. I'm assuming they're putting a new record out. So I'm looking forward to hearing what that sounds like.
So question for you. I know you're a big fan of theirs, and I'm shocked that you weren't from day one. Did you lump them in sonically at the origin with grunge, or did they sound different to you?
They sounded totally different to me. Although, like, they were playing, not far from me. Like, they were playing in and around Ohio. I coincidentally was playing in bands at the time, and I'm going to lose his name, but their bass player, John Curley. John Curley had a recording studio in Cincinnati. And when I was playing in bands, that was a pretty common place that people, like, that was kind of like the cool place to go and record. And so there were bands coming out of, like, Cincinnati. Like, there was a band called Spiderfoot and the Ass Ponies, and like just different bands that were coming out. And they, like, that was a big deal to, like, record with them. For whatever reason, again, like, I don't know if I was just so in that Alice in Chains, Pearl Jam, Nirvana, Soundgarden, Screaming Trees, like, like, for some reason, like, I was captured in that sonically, that I wouldn't, like, really get out of my head much. Although I listened to Tori Amos at the same time, so there's no good excuse.
No, I'm the reason I ask is, like, I was in what I refer to as young adulthood hell during that time, and I have, like, a whole gap of almost a decade musically of the 90s that I just basically missed because I was working full time as a high school teacher and going to grad school 4 nights a week and working at the mall all day, Saturday and Sunday. So, like, the 90s are a wash for me. So I'm fascinated with what was that like for people, even though I was technically there.
Right.
And like what got lumped together at the time versus what gets lumped together today. Because if you ask someone who only nominally knows about them and you say Afghan Wigs, they're going to go, oh yeah, kind of grunge sort of, but not from up in Pacific Northwest. And when I listen to them, I don't hear grunge. No,
it sounds like I don't even know how I would really describe them. Like, it's kind of like a
Midwest rock.
Yeah, it's like Midwest rock, and it's like definitely steeped in probably more blues feel than blues sound.
Okay, that makes sense.
And yeah, like, a lot of his lyrics are all, like, highly sexualized. Like, that's, like, kind of like what his songs are about. So yeah, no good excuse, but I definitely missed them on the first go around.
Yeah, I liked the song, and I would not have listened had you not submitted it. So I was kind of like, oh, this is sort of fun. It's helping me branch out. That's like the theme of today. Get out of my own silo.
Yes.
Tell me about this other band that you found, because it looks like they've been around.
They have. So it's really interesting. I knew nothing about this band. Literally nothing. And I think their last record came out a couple years ago. I think it was, like, one of my most played records of 2024. The band is called Arc Welder. Their last album, I think, had 8 tracks. But what's interesting about that band is they started putting records out in 93. So I think they had a record out, like, in 93, 94, maybe like 96, 99. And then there was a 25-year gap. They didn't put any records out from 99 to 2024. And I heard that record in 2024, and I was like, oh, this band is great. I'm like, who are they? And I was like, oh, they're my age. Like, right. How's this possible? Like, how's this possible? I just assumed it was like some cool, like, almost kind of math rock type, like, college band. And I'm like, oh, and as it turns out, they're from Minneapolis. They put a few of those records out on Touch and Go. So again, another band that just never landed in my universe at all. And then I turned out, like, they put that record out in 2024 and it's phenomenal. Like if you are a like college rock, hearing them, I immediately assumed it was like a Steve Albini produced Chicago band. Like it just has that vibe to it. So if you like that kind of music, I would say go check it out. I thought they were great.
Yeah, I totally missed them the first time around too, to the point where I was like, is this a new band using the same name?
Right. Yeah, I had no idea. And I did look them up, just matter of fact, right before we were scheduled to talk, because I was like, I don't really know where they're from. So I need to go look that up. And it appears that, if I had to guess, it looks like twin brothers in the band. Or at least definitely brothers, at a minimum very close in age, but they look very much alike.
Interesting. I'm just kind of fascinated by this, like, because the 90s are such a gap for me musically. Whenever anything comes up that had its origin then, I'm like, okay, so creatively that was your source, and then where are you now? And I'm just sort of fascinated by that whole thing.
It's weird for me because if their first records came out in 93, 94, that would have been when I was consuming music at an incredibly rapid pace. And, you know, a lot of people, I went to Bowling Green in Northwest Ohio, and kind of like the pilgrimage is that if you played in bands in Bowling Green, the natural progression is once you graduated, you just moved to Chicago. Like that's just what people did. And they were kind of in that mix, but, you know, we got bands like the Laughing Hyenas. We got Jack White's band before he was Jack White and before the White Stripes, like that would play in Bowling Green. But Arkwelder's not one that popped into my brain. I just did not recognize them at all. So yeah, very interesting.
Very interesting. Yeah. So I was in Ohio from until like 91, 92. So real interesting music of that era, very Chicago heavy for sure.
Yep.
I'm kind of fascinated by all this. So as I said, when I was initially introducing today's show, there's kind of this unintentional lyrical theme, or sort of an arc of the theme that goes through this time around, that I was sort of amused by when I was going through and sequencing the songs, because I like to sequence them sometimes where sonically it makes the right playlist. But this time it was like, I decided to go with, we've got Cardinal Sin, which is clearly topical, and then Wish I Didn't Know Now What I Didn't Know Then. If you don't know that song, it's someone discovering their partner was unfaithful. And then House of I, which goes into sort of a different take on all of it. And then Evermine with the Luke Combs and Alison Krauss, which is, I don't want to like give away the song, but you know, nothing's a secret anymore. It's sort of things didn't work out, but I keep this note in my wallet to remember when things were still good. So sort of the arc of the relationship thing there. And then that Paul McCartney with the soft nostalgic song of the past, and without a lot of judgment about the past, not like it was the best thing ever and not like it was the worst thing ever. And then wrapping up with the Arkwelder Take It Slow of just kind of like, all right, let's all just back off and vibe. So I enjoy being able to kind of tie things together in a way that might not otherwise seem to go together, because sonically we're all over the place with this, which is totally the point. Anyway, but I love that. So I'm just curious. We were talking, Chad, about how you literally pull the last three things you've listened to. That's also what my methodology is. And there's no rules to this. But I'm curious, Amanda, what strikes you? Are you going with like whatever's stuck in your head, or is it like scrolling back on your playlist?
Yeah, so it definitely is like whatever's been stuck in my head, like whatever's been my earworm lately. I think if you guys looked at my playlist of like what I played most often, it would probably be like the same songs over and over and over. Like whenever I get that end of year review.
Oh yeah.
I'm always like ashamed. I'm like, oh, okay. So I've just been listening to the same stuff now for 10 years. Like,
you're in the top 1% of
fans. I'm like, oh, okay, here's my same songs over and over. So I definitely have the stuff that I stick with. But then if there's something that's been like shaking it up and making their way into my rotation, then that's usually something that I'll bring to to you guys.
I have a weird question for you, Amanda. You mentioned that you are also a TikTok consumer. And I know you had mentioned a while back that you're writing at least one book and maybe two. Does TikTok overlap with your book world in any way?
It really hasn't. Which I will say this, like, it's funny because TikTok likes to feed stuff over and over again, and I'll start to see a theme. And when I first joined, I was definitely on what I call book talk, where there's a lot of people like talking about what they're reading, or authors talking about what they're writing, or even authors talking about what else from the fellow authors that they are reading. Not so much. That's gone right now. It's funny. I always laugh and say, like, first of all, like, our phones, of course, like, listen to us. Because that'll be like whatever I mention, then that'll be like the next thing that pops up on TikTok. But right now, it's showing me like a lot of live concerts. That's the thing that seems to be popping up a lot for summertime. And then it's also showing me like national parks. That's a big thing that's popping up. A lot of national park content that's very hilarious. And then I usually do get a lot of like Appalachia, like people talking about where they live and sharing stories from their grandparents. Now that is the one thing from some of my writing that I think does tie back to what TikTok shows me is like the theme of Appalachia itself. That's really, I will say, like, my algorithm's all over the place right now.
So we haven't checked in lately on your writing. What has been going on for you? How is that going?
So I would say it's going really well. I do have this summer going to be featured in a outlet called Bodies of Opinion, and it's actually going to debut over the summer. So Bodies of Opinion is a website that's going to be hosted by nonprofit New Disabled South, and we'll So we'll feature disabled writers, and I will be talking about what it's been like for me to progressively lose my vision over time for the first time, and just really sharing my story. And that will probably be midsummer is the launch timeline we're looking at. But I'm looking forward to that, and I'm just looking forward to sharing my piece, and then hoping that it does connect me with other disabled folks who maybe have been going through the same thing.
Absolutely. And I don't want to take away from the content that will be released in that, but how has that been for you in choosing to share this sort of information with the wide world?
Yeah, so for me, it kind of has... I think when I started losing my vision, I was desperately looking for other people like me. I was looking for other people who had similar experiences. So I think about that, number one. And then I also think about even just like being on this podcast and sharing like the music I love and sharing something I'm very passionate about. I feel like as I've been progressively like losing my vision over time, I think music is one of the ways that I continue to like experience joy and share joy. So it's kind of like double fold for me for these two things. I'm hoping that I can continue to connect with people who are experiencing the same thing as me, and hopefully I can be somebody that if somebody's looking, the type of blindness I have is extremely rare, and so I'm hoping that if there are other people in that rare seat that I was sitting in, that they will be able to connect with me and find maybe some joy or some hope or even just like some dark humor in what they're experiencing. And then just being here with y'all talking about music, I mean, it's really how I connect with other people. It's how I experience the day, like music from sun up till sundown. And I definitely am passionate about like chatting with y'all, because it is one way that I really tap into my emotions. And I feel like in the disabled community, that's one thing we talk a lot about is what we call disabled joy. And for me, I experience it very heavily through like attending concerts.
And I know you've got a bunch of concerts on tap for the summer as well, right? We've talked a little bit about that.
Yes, very, very excited to be like heading out to Red Rocks here in 2 weeks. Actually, we'll see Jason Isbell in the 400 unit out there, and I feel like I need like some sort of I always say this, I'm like, there was the Deadheads. I feel like we as a like Jason Isbell fan group, like we need our own name for the folks that like travel around and go to these concerts. Because I always think, I'm like, I feel like I go to a lot, but then when I talk to folks in the fandom, they're like, yeah, I'm on like my 50th concert. I'm like, okay, yes, but I need a cool group name for us.
Back in the day, the Dave Matthews Band fans were Dancing Nancy's, I believe.
Oh my gosh, that's perfect. I love that. So we'll definitely be doing that. It's funny because actually the week that we're heading out, he's coming to Atlanta and playing with Tedeschi Trucks. at Ameris Bank. So that's going to be an incredible concert. Like, I love Susan Tedeschi. So that's going to be a great night of music. And then summertime in June, we're going to head to Birmingham to see Tyler Childers play at the Coca-Cola Amphitheater.
That's going to be great.
I know. I cannot wait to see Tyler. This will be my first time seeing him play live, and I just desperately love his music and his voice and what he stands for. All of the things. So that one will be our summertime. Yeah.
Can I ask you a question about accessibility of venues? And because you're mostly going to these large venues, it sounds like.
Oh yes. So this is actually something something I'm very passionate about, because I will say the last time we attended a concert at the Tabernacle in Atlanta, so a former church that's now a music venue, very hard for somebody who has, I'm sure, any type of excessive, needs to use a mobility aid or has some sort of vision loss. Very hard to navigate, very hard. And it will be, most of these historic venues are similar. So it is something if I ever have an opportunity to talk with people about these things, about accessibility, that is one of the things I immediately talk about. So I know that I know that Live Nation has actually hired somebody to look into and be working on accessibility for their at their music venues. So that makes me very happy, because it is something that desperately needs to happen. It is a lot easier for me to get around either a newer venue, because they do have accessibility usually built in. But even so, even the ones that are tagged as accessible sometimes are very hard to get around. I will say, I have an easier time getting around the Ryman, even though that's an older venue. They do have more pieces of accessibility put in place than some other venues.
I wonder if that's something that NIVA, the National Independent Venue Association, could have an advocacy working group on, because it would seem to me that would make sense. And I mean, their primary purpose is keeping independent venues open. But I have several friends in music who are disabled, where accessibility is a primary barrier, physical accessibility of the building is a primary barrier to them doing their jobs, to write about the music or enjoying the show or anything like that. And so I was actually surprised, and this is the privilege and naivete of not having this be something that I personally deal with, even though I have a family member who is disabled. I was not aware that this continues to be such a problem. I really thought that the ADA solved a lot more than it turns out it actually has.
Yes. You would definitely think, that the ADA would be once a law is put into place, that it would be something all businesses have to follow. And it's especially if it's a historical venue or a historical building, then there are all sorts of ways to skirt the ADA, because you're a historical marker, essentially. So then it becomes a lot harder to get those buildings to put accessibility features in place. Or it's we've put in a ramp outside, and then that's it. And then there's no restroom that's that you have to go downstairs to get to a restroom on the bottom floor. I'm okay. So the person's stuck here and can't use the restroom is what you're saying once they get into the building. So yes, I absolutely have lots of thoughts about accessibility. If anybody out that works with music venues would like to listen, I feel like there is. I absolutely think a working group would be incredible to put together, because it's a factor that, like you said, it doesn't impact you until it impacts you. And then you realize, oh gosh, it's probably even harder for X, Y, and Z to get in and out.
And anybody can be disabled. It can happen.
Exactly.
You can, not everyone, don't have to be born that way or have a progressive something. Just you could have tragedy or just things happen.
That's exactly it. We always say it's the one group that any person can join at any time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious in terms of the overlap with mental health, and you were talking about disabled joy, because Chad, you have a long-standing series of musicians talking and working in the area of mental health, and I also have some connection to that as well. But I'm curious about this sort of overlap of addressing mental health and music and joy.
Yeah, so outside of the disability community and the disability work I've done, I have really been a longstanding fan and follower of Nuci space in Athens.
Oh, yeah.
And it really, I just feel like the music community itself is a space, if you love music, then usually you're tapped into your emotions in some way. And so I just feel like all of us feel things maybe a little bit more deeply, and therefore we have a lot of, I'm like, and then we have a lot of emotions and need some place to put them. And so for me, I put them into music, but then I also put them into like therapy and my mental health work. So I think with music, like what I try to do when I'm having these discussions with, like, whether it's like here in this space or with my disabled community, I'm talking about two things. I'm looking for like a way to open up the door and talk about how therapy is a great thing, and addressing mental health issues for me is like paramount to my joy. But I'm also looking for like ways I can tap into joy and all these emotions I'm feeling. And that is me, like listening to Jason or listening to Ella or listening to whatever, TikTok is feeding me that week.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, interesting that you mentioned Nuci Space, because that is how Chad and I initially connected. Was that I have been a longtime advocate and supporter of them, and I released 2 records that benefited them. And then when I met Chad, he was wanting to start a mental health project that he's now done. And so your project has continued significantly, Chad, and that actually ties into some of the stuff you'll be doing probably this summer, I would imagine.
Yeah. I mean, first to kind of touch on what Amanda said is, I feel like we live at a time when we all should be seeking joy in whatever capacity we can get it. And, talking with musicians over the last almost 10 years now, I do know that like it's not performative when people say that music saved my life. I know they mean that. And so this is me saying out loud, go find joy, go do the things that make you happy. And I'm right there with you, Amanda. Music, is kind of that soothing, necessity that I have in my life.
I'm guessing that some of your advocacy and work in the world of musicians' mental health probably is going to tie into some of what you're doing this summer.
Yes. And yeah, so my mental health project is called I Didn't Want to Tell You. And what it's allowed me to do is, like, this year, my kids, one child is going into her first year of college. Another is going into law school. So I'm backing off of music festivals a little bit this year. But I have a long-standing relationship with the Nelsonville Music Festival, where I do backstage portraits. I do live music for them, but I also talk about the I Didn't Want to Tell You series. In addition to that, I think this will be my 4th or 5th year that I'll be going out to Okemah, Oklahoma, and being a speaker at the Woody Guthrie Folk Festival. I will also be doing photography there, and I know we always try to do like some type of breaking secret news that isn't out there. And this year I'm going to help them. There's a songwriter that works directly with a kids songwriting workshop.
Oh, cool.
And I'm going to try to shoot like a music video for them and document what they do. So something a little bit different than what I've done in previous years, but take some of that music video work that I've done over the last few years and do something a little bit different with it.
So kind of process.
Yeah, exactly.
I love this. Yeah, if folks haven't had a chance to check out that I Didn't Want to Tell You series, it's very visually recognizable, first of all, but also across the venues over the years, you can almost look at them and go, I know what that is. And I like that there's that visual connection. It's very distinct within the work that you create.
Yes, thank you.
I'm curious. I don't know that I've ever asked you this before. When you give a talk, say at the Woody Guthrie Festival, what is the nature of that?
So it's interesting. It's a great question, because when I first started doing it, it was more informative. It was more about like, this is what I do. This is how it came to be. Matter of fact, Sloane, I probably talked about you because you were kind of there in the trenches with me, and you were my sounding board when I was trying to figure out, how to this thing to kind of take off. The last couple of years, I've made it a panel. And so I'm trying to remember, last year, I think I had Betty Sue, and I had Adeem, and maybe Jamie Harris. I'm trying to remember.
Oh, wow.
A few people have done it over the years. So I'm trying to remember exactly who did it last year.
Right.
And the direction that I take it is, starting off by talking about how important mental health is and how important it is to take care of your mental health. And the last couple of years, I have focused on providing the musician the opportunity to talk about how they manage their mental health while they're on the road.
Yeah.
Because, some of them are out for 50 days a year. Some of them are out for 200 days a year. And so it's, I think it was Jamie Harris that gave, she talked a little bit about like Mary was driving the car and maybe she was in the passenger seat doing therapy, going to, doing a therapy session, going down the road. And so it's like those kind of how you've got to put in the work, and sometimes you only have so many hours in the day to do the work. And so I'm incredibly grateful that people are willing to open up and tell me and, trust me with their stories. And I think it's really important for other people. I mean, that was what started this project, was to get the stories out there to help normalize this conversation. And so having musicians on my panel talk about how they manage their mental health, I think is incredibly helpful to the people that are sitting in the audience watching.
Absolutely. And just to mention a few of the organizations that kind of connected us all early on. So Nuci Space is specific to the creative community of Athens, Georgia, to prevent musician suicide. And they have broad-reaching services connected to that. And then the Sims Foundation out of Texas was also partnered with HAM, the Health Alliance for Austin Musicians. But Sims Foundation is also now in North Carolina and expanding their services through kind of the Eastern Seaboard a bit there, which is pretty cool. And then nationally, specific to the music community, so anyone who works professionally in the world of music. So that can be folks who are on crew, folks who are touring, front of house, musicians, is Backline. And they're probably the ones with the most broad-facing public presence to connect you, if you need it, to places and virtual support that are trained specifically to deal with the music community. Because there's some nuances to the community where you want whoever your counselor or therapist is to get it. Are there any other organizations that you've worked with, particularly regionally, that you want to make sure to mention for folks?
I think the other one, and this one too, MusiCares is another one that is incredibly important. And then, I think NAMI's the key one. I always tell people start there. That's always a great way. And the only other one would be Music Health Alliance is another one I would want to make sure I get out there.
Nashville based for that one.
Yep.
NAMI is NAMI. They are national. It's like National Association of, I don't even know what they stand for, but NAMI. They're very visible and they're in every state.
Yep. It's www.nami.org.
Amanda, are there any mental health resources that are available to the disabled community?
That's actually a great question. So, to be honest, I'm not sure if there's one that's very specific just to the disabled community. For me, I actually use I use a therapist who works just with folks who have vision loss or are blind. And I was introduced to her through state resources. So every state, and most people don't know this until you need it. And then unfortunately, a lot of doctors don't point you this way. But there are resources that every state has around occupational therapy for progressive blindness or for people who are legally blind. So you just have to find those resources, and they're usually tied to your state's website. And through there, actually was referred to a woman in South Georgia who works just with blind patients, and it has been phenomenal. That to me has been one of the biggest forms of help that I have found, was finding somebody that I could talk to just about what was happening. And of course, her experience with working with the blind community, and she was able to point me to more resources as well. But that was the biggest help for me, was to be able to find somebody who understood my experience and understood when I was talking about the loss of certain things, because I feel like your friends and family are incredible. And if you have a great support system, that's amazing. But for me, it was actually connecting with a person who was understanding of the particular loss that I was talking about. So for sure, definitely folks like look out on your state websites. For me, it was like the state of Georgia, and then looking for occupational therapy tied to vision loss.
That's, it's finding that connection for the support.
It is. It really is. I think that that's one thing, like being a part of the disability community now is learning about, I feel like we there are resources usually like for cancer or for heart disease, and so but that's the kind of hard thing is like there are resources but they're siloed. It's like there are resources over here for like independent living, and then there are resources for like IDD, so it's like developmental disabilities, and there are usually, you can find great resources, but it is that they're not all in one place, and it's like having the ability to really like cipher through all of this information and find out what's really helpful.
Totally. Chad Cochran and Amanda Miles, I love that music is the thing that was able to bring us together to have the conversation about what's really a lot more important this week with mental health and how it obviously impacts all of us, but that even when it seems like there's nothing to bring joy, that sometimes it is just that song of comfort or the song of rage that can give that glimmer in the day. And it's sort of the thread for all of us coming from different places, but coming together to talk about this. I am truly deeply I get so much pleasure from that. And I'm grateful for y'all for being willing to share.
Great talking with y'all. Mm-hmm.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks. That's the last call at Dive Bar Music Club. If you like the hang, follow the show, leave a review, and tell your algorithm, gosh darn it, we're worth it. Better yet, share your favorite episode with a friend who actually stayed for the whole set. See y'all next time for the low-key, high-taste happy hour for music nerds. Hey y'all, thanks for sliding in the booth with us here at Dive Bar Music Club. I'm Sloane Spencer, a former radio host and the creator of a ton of different podcasts over the years, including another brand new one that is completely different. It's the Gen X Sleep Podcast, Sleep with Rock Stars. Subscribe today at sleepwithrockstars.com or your favorite podcast app.